go. There we go. I knew something was off there, confusing myself. Yes. Yes, indeedy Roo. Time for another daily bread project. Got another special guest for you today on a Saturday, no less. Looks like he's already in the room. This guy's eager. This guy is eager. All right, let's get him up. Oh, he dropped. There he is. Yes, indeedy Roo. This guy is ready to rock and roll. Hopefully his camera doesn't look so much better than mine. This guy's a video professional, a long-term friend, and original.
Test.
Yes, sir, I hear you. This guy's an OG, the guy I have for you guys today. OG, the first show ever on the Podcast Factory, the guy that convinced me to podcast even when I didn't want to.
That'll
What's
be a
up, Darin?
trivia question someday. Remember me, because that will be a trivia question.
You think so?
Yeah.
How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
I am amazing. I'm stoked that you're here, and I'm getting us live on Facebook now. And if you're on a computer, it looks like you might be near one. If you'll share to your page or your profile,
Okay.
that would be awesome.
Is this on your personal profile?
Indeed it is. That's all.
Okay.
That's the only thing I could figure out on this thing. I could never get it to stream to the page. I don't know why.
Oh, look at those cute characters.
All righty. Okay, so this thing is about to go live. Oh, it's live now on Facebook. We are here, so I'm just going to jump into this.
I see me. I see you.
You see us. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, so you are listening to the Daily Bread Project. If you are here on my profile, facebook.com/JR Rivera, then you're with us live. If not, you are listening to this in podcast format somewhere across the web. And I'm going to give credit to everything good in this world to the guest I have here today. There'd be no podcast factory. There would be no Daily Bread podcast. There wouldn't be a lot of things. I wouldn't even be talking to you here today if it wasn't for my guest, Mr. Darin Persinger. What is up, brother?
I mean, that's quite the introduction. So I don't know how I live up to that now.
100% true. And this is a dynamic, ladies and gentlemen. The first show ever on the Podcast Factory Network, and I'm doing air quotes if you're not watching, was Making Agents Rich. And that was with Mr. Darin Persinger. We did, I don't know, something like 180, 190 shows, something like that, wasn't it?
Into the 190s.
Wow. That was a big project. And we've done, what we do before that? Marketing and Productivity Radio. That lasted about 25.
20s on that.
We did better the second time around. We figured some things out. And now you've got your own podcast or several podcasts. What do you got going on now?
I'm doing you're putting me on the spot. Anything, Not Everything podcast. The reason why I lost my train of thought there for a second, you won't believe this. You won't believe this. Are you ready for this? You're going to have to show this to Rachel. Catherine and I recorded episode 1 of what we are calling Date Night In. We recorded that last night.
Really?
Yeah.
That is, so now maybe I can get Rachel Cupcake is how people know her. Show with us. Darin and Kat
I gave away her reality image.
Yeah, for some reason your camera is lagging. I don't know why. It's probably because you have all that high def stuff going. So I'm going to pretend that I can't see you because it's
that's fine.
You're moving in slow motion. But all right, cool. So you get the idea. I think you've listened to a show or two. You also inspired me to make this a podcast. That's another true story. I was doing these Facebook Lives. I jumped into this 2 weeks ago just because I wanted to bring some positivity, some light, something different than what people were getting everywhere else. And you're like, hey, podcast dude, why isn't this podcast? So thank you for always encouraging me to think bigger. It's one of the things I love about you. What are you doing right now, Darin, to stay positive with all this craziness going on?
Um, the number, I mean, here's the thing for us, and I've kind of talked to you about this before. We are ahead of this in Washington State, where I'm from, and specifically Snohomish County, where the first case and the first death in the United States took place from COVID-19. So we are a little bit out in front. I mean, like, I called you weeks ago about this, and I was like, hey, and you're like, that seems fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine. Like, I was going through the 5 stages of grief or whatever it's called, right? Like, I was battling that in the beginning, then came out around to the reality of it. So right now, I'm not doing anything really out of the normal. Like, we're kind of shifted back to normal for ourselves and not doing anything. We're not pushing extra hard to make sure that we're thinking positively or anything like that. We're just back into our normal routine more than anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you guys were ground zero, and so you're ahead of the curve. So we can all aspire to normalcy like you. I mean, I feel normal, but other people don't, and so that's why I ask. And so let's take a step back then. When the stuff hit the fan, and you guys were at the ground zero, and everything was crazy
Okay.
before we knew about it. What were your thought patterns, and how were you prepared to deal with this?
The first thing that we reacted to was this is probably going to be bad. So, how do we handle that without panicking? So, we could either, I guess the way that I kind of look at it is there's some people that are running into cocoons and hiding. And then the other side of the spectrum doesn't feel like the right thing to me either. There's some people I think that are acting like moths to a flame. They're like just heading head first into this, like, I'm going to make something great out of this. Like, that's how a moth thinks and then gets zapped, you know? So we kind of just shifted to neutral for the first couple weeks of our mindset and our proactivity. We're like, we have to get out of bed and we have to take showers and we still have to go about our day. And mindset, this isn't going to be good. But also, we weren't thinking, hey, this is our opportunity to become billionaires right now. We just shifted to neutral and took it one day at a time.
Now I'm feeling guilty. I feel like I kicked it up a gear. I'm like ramping up the positivity here because I
And
thought we needed it. Maybe I should have just slowed it down a little bit and shifted to
no,
neutral like you.
there's nothing wrong with that. I think everyone has to react to it differently. And for the people who went into a negative state, they definitely need that, right? They need someone to pull them out of that. They need to permission to themselves maybe get back to neutral. We were just able to do that ourselves, and I think that was an important first step. I'm reading, it's actually right here, so that you know I'm legitimately reading it. I'm reading this book by Jocko Willink on leadership.
Yeah.
In the very first part of the book, he talks about detaching, and that's how he started to become the leader in the SEALs team. Is he was just realized that in a situation, if he could detach, take a step back, and assess things, then he could start giving orders and commands to the team. And I think that's what we have definitely been doing, is detaching from this and taking a step back and just taking it all in.
What you're saying there, and by the way, love Jocko Willink. Don't know if you read Extreme Ownership, but one of my favorite books last year. Um,
Okay.
is that like when you're saying detaching, are you really talking about removing emotion from it?
Yeah, I think when you're at neutral, you can do that because you're not in a panic state and you're not in an excited state of, oh, I'm looking for this opportunity, or this is going to be great and I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons. So maybe this is a different approach than what you are talking about in the Daily Bread and some of the other guests, but it was just, this is how we're approaching it, mindset and productivity wise.
let's talk about productivity. I don't know if
Okay.
you're still a productivity junkie, but when I met you, you were one. And so,
Mhm.
how did you guys make this time productive?
Well, we are able to focus more on, I guess, long-term projects because the daily grind is kind of gone. For us, real estate agents are considered non-essential in the state of Washington right now. So we can't go out, show properties, tour homes, talk to sellers. We got to stay in our homes. So that changed our approach to that and how we do our daily activities. In the very beginning, we just were trying to prioritize. So the first thing that we did was after we took care of the family, like, hey, are we going to be okay? How do we make sure the kids are okay? And then family elsewhere, like, and I consider you family. So like, that's why you're getting calls so early on,
And lots of
calling.
them.
I
Thank you.
just really wanted to make sure I was, and those calls have backed off a little bit after I know that everyone is okay. And then we started looking at our investments, our assets, and we started to assess and audit like which of our tenants are not going to probably pay rent because they have a job that's impacted by this. So we started to audit that, make plans, and then we moved into our business and said, okay, well, what's next? And how do we come through this stronger? And what we've really been focusing on, and I did a live on this, and that would be number one, is I think you're just going to have to figure out what this new world order looks like for business.
New World Order.
Yeah,
Interesting choice of words there.
I know, but I'm just trying to play into that. So the like I did this live yesterday about front of the room leadership. How can you lead right now? If you have a team, how can you lead from the front of the room if there's no front of the room? You're on these weird Zoom calls like this. If we stacked up more people, like, and you're supposed to be leading this, you get lost in that. You're just one little box and mini. And so, how do you really show leadership to your team or to your clients in this type of situation? And for me, what we assessed was lives, which aren't ideal because you can still get interrupted with those. And number two, podcasting, because that to me is like the new digital front of the room leadership. You're uninterrupted. You get to sit there in the virtual digital front of the room and share with whatever you want to share with your team or clients for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. So we're focused on that, on the creation of those two types of assets right now.
The lives and the podcast. So that is how you tricked Catherine into podcasting, eh? This is how we're going to lead, baby. Get on the leadership
We
train.
we've been talking about it for years. And one of the names and ideas that we were throwing around was the kids are in bed because that's like the only time that we get to chat with each other. And I don't know about for you and Cupcake, but listen to this stat that we came across. What would you guess is the average amount of time that a married couple spends talking to each other each week? And maybe I
So,
shared this number with you on
yeah,
one of my walks.
I'm going to pretend that I didn't ever hear it. And
Okay.
I'd say 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah, that would be amazing, right? 27 minutes.
Yikes.
So last night when we sat down and did a podcast for 1 hour, like we're doubling the amount of time that an average married couple talks.
That is, how do you even run a house? Like, how can you run a life and a house with only 27 minutes of talking between you?
Well, I think, I mean, if we really assessed how much we do, it's probably less than what other people think because we work together. They think we spend a lot of time talking, and people assume because they said something to Catherine, it will get passed on to me and vice versa. But we're a lot of hit and miss and like conversations while we pass each other in the hallway and stuff like that. So I just think that's a reality of modern day family life and in marriage. Of it's hard, so there's an opportunity in this current situation that we're in of maybe slow down and talk to your spouse.
Let's talk about that, bro. Let's talk about, with everything going on, most people are glued to the media and thinking about right now. What do you see as big opportunities in front of us?
Well, for us, we watch a little bit of news each day just to make sure that we're getting, and we filter it through our own mindset, but we need to know what's going on. And then we're each day brings new information, which then changes our mindset. Like, I think the biggest, if there's an opportunity in this, you're going to have to make your decisions, your mindset, your ideas very, very flexible. I would be cautious about going here based upon now, here's my 6-month plan, and there's what we're going to do, and we're not going to waver from this no matter what. Each day we're going to do this, this, and this, because each day is going to bring new ideas, new data points, new information that's helpful, information that hurts that idea. So the biggest opportunity is make sure that you are staying lean and limber and still bringing in the information to make sure that your idea that you came up with yesterday still makes sense.
What are some ideas that you guys had to get rid of in light of the new situation?
Um, I think that number one is that we had time, actually. So even though we have more time, I think we were acting like we had a lot of time to figure things out. And so, in a way, even though we're moving slower, there's a little bit more sense of urgency on us right now, because we need to figure out certain pieces, certain ideas, because we know now after slowing down, we get to go, wow, we were moving really fast and things were really chaotic. And when things get back to normal and it's like that again, we're not going to have this opportunity to figure things out and be strategic and be thoughtful and think through some different scenarios. We're going to go back to conversations while we pass in the hall. So let's take this opportunity where we have some time and think through this. And instead of, like, for example, instead of creating content that day based upon what we're inspired by, let's figure out a content map for 2, 3 months, 6 months. Let's figure out big strategic points, big kind of dumps of, I'm calling them content lands because I'm inspired by Disneyland right now in Disney World. Like lands, what are the themes inside of these lands of content that we can start to develop?
That is interesting. Content lands. I've never thought of it that way. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I like that. So, what are you doing to take care of yourself, man? I mean, we're in lockdown. I don't know if you've got a home gym, or what are you doing to take care of yourself mentally? What are you doing to take care of yourself physically?
I mean, if there's any family that is designed a life to survive this and thrive in this, it is us. We work from home. This is my home office, the studio. I have a home gym out in the garage with a squat rack and free weights. So we're set up there. I'm still working out more. Um, so again, the routine is like we get to slow down a little bit and actually be purposeful about what we're doing instead of just running through routine. Mindset wise, you listening to your podcast, the Daily Bread helps. I was going through some stuff yesterday, just pulled out some books that would help get through this. So Like I'm doing Art of War. Got the Four Agreements, the Alchemist, Psycho-Cybernetics. So going back into some old mindset stuff. And then just for a reality check, I'm reading this book. I read this book at least once a year, but I pull it out right now. It's called The Great Crash of 1929. And just what led up to that, the Great Depression, and why recessions happen, and how we come out of those economically. So filling in some reality situations there too, not just trying to think overly positive about this, but what's our actual position. Trying to make things fun for Morgan. Yesterday I created an obstacle course in the house. I was letting her jump up on the dining room table and run across it and jump down.
What? And Catherine allowed that?
She didn't know I was doing that. She was on her work shift. I was watching the kids. And I'm like, right now, Morgan needs to, we call it get the wiggles out.
Yeah.
So we spent some time making an obstacle course that she got to jump over things, climb under things. And it's like, we got this giant dining room table. Let's let her run across it, because she never gets to run across it. She'll remember that.
Oh, no doubt about that. And she'll try
Yeah.
to, well, Daddy lets me.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna get in trouble for that one. That's coming. That is coming. So
How about you, man? What are you doing? I don't really get to hear you talk much about on these shows about what you're up to with your, I mean, I see the walks in the park. You're still doing those.
daily?
How long of a walk is that?
Typically, it's 45 minutes to 55 minutes, and it gets anywhere from 2.5 to 3 miles, depending on my pace. Today was
And that's
3.2.
one lap around the lake.
It's 2 laps around. One lap
Okay.
around the outside, one lap around the inside gets me about 2.5 miles.
And you do that every morning?
Minimum, yeah. Yeah.
Minimum. So you go back later in the day and do it?
I was doing it more, and then things have switched up. When I was doing 75 hard, I was doing it
Right.
twice a day. And then what we've been trying to do here this week, although it's gotten pretty hot, is in the afternoon, all three of us go out for a walk, and I do something similar to you. Hudson doesn't want to do the walk, so we play a game where we find shortcuts, and he chooses which one to take
Nice.
to get him to go
So
around the lake.
you've been doing that thing for a while. Has this changed up your lifestyle and your routine that much?
Yeah, what has changed is this that we're doing together here, this
Right.
daily bread project, because I'm basing my day around that. So that's a big change. I would say that,
Okay.
and it's been a change for the better for me, because I'll do this. We'll finish recording. This is insider baseball, boring stuff, but you might be interested in it. I'll finish up here with you. I've got notes written on my iPad, and then I'll go do breakfast, go do homework with Huddy, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
come back to this around noon, and I'll do the last half hour post production work. And then that's really my main goal for the day, is to do this. This is my big communication piece, and then I hit the Facebook group when I can for our TPF insiders. And then the morning's taken care of. My content in the morning's taken care of with the walk from the talk from the park.
So when you decided to launch the Daily Bread project, did you have an end in mind with this? Do you have, like, I'm going to do 30 shows, I'm going to do this until we're off quarantine? Do you have a way to wrap this up, or does this thing go on indefinitely?
Oh, no, no, no. I'm not going to keep doing this. This is a project, as the
Uh-huh.
name states. And as soon as we're out of quarantine, I'm out of the Daily Bread project. This is the
Gotcha.
point here was to do something positive. And so I was feeling helpless like a couple weeks ago, and a little scared, and a little weird, just like everybody else. And I thought, well, I could either lean into the fear and all that stuff, and become a basket case, or I can do
Mm-hmm.
something about it. And so this is kind of my therapy for what we're dealing with. I don't watch the news or anything, so I don't know what's going on out there. All I'm doing is bringing the light that I have and shining the light over here, so that people know that there is some positivity in the world.
Nice. Okay.
No end goal, no monetization, no this is going to last forever. None of that stuff.
Hmm.
This is all the stuff I say people do podcasting wrong with.
Well, and that's funny that you talk about that. Um, and this is what I was kind of pointing out to Catherine last night is one thing that I do when I'm trying to figure out like a name for a podcast. If you go into, let's say, Apple Podcasts and you search for a name that you like, you're going to find that the name's probably already been taken. And then you go down and you look at how many shows they did, how many episodes. And then the last time they did an episode, I'd say on average, it's maybe 6 episodes.
That's it.
That's what it feels like. And then they just abandon it. So, how many daily bread projects have you already done?
I believe that today will be 12 or 13.
So, I bet you're already ahead of the average
Well,
amount
they
of.
have that pod fade number that was around 10 episodes.
So, why do you think that is? Do you think that's I don't know what to create content about, or is it more of a tech aspect? I get tired of the post work and all the stuff that's involved with it.
What it is people that this is why I said I'm doing this all wrong. If I were to be advising on this, I'd be like, "Hey, you're a dummy. Quit doing
But
it."
once you know what the rules are, you get to break them.
Sure, and make them and
Yeah,
make new
there you go.
rules. So
That's right.
that's me, and you know that. But really, it's because they go in without a plan of what the podcast is supposed to do for them. Sure, it could be fulfilling, it could be fun, but if it doesn't have an end goal, as you said, then you're going to get burnt out on it. And so the tech's never been easier as far as like this one's super easy because I don't do any post production. I mean, I do some copywriting and uploading, but there's not like editing to be done.
Right.
But the tech is easier than ever if you're just doing an unedited show and putting it out there. What happens is you don't have a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, then you don't have a game plan. If you don't have a game plan, then what's going to make you stick to it? There's nothing there for you.
Right.
That's where I think pod fade comes in because like we advise our clients is the first thing is what do you want your podcast to do for you?
And
If you,
is that an easy question for people, or
I
is
mean,
that
for
what
the
you're
people that we
there to
work
help them
with,
with?
yeah, that's the people that we work with. It's either going to get more phone calls. Most of our people sell on the phone, or it's going to
Okay.
get more opt-ins to the list, or it's going to be used as an asset in your conversion mechanism or your nurturing mechanism. We figure out which is the big opportunity, and then we dial everything in to that opportunity.
All right. That makes sense. Yeah, it's just interesting to see how many abandoned podcasts are that exist out there.
What are you
I'd
guys
recommend
doing?
everyone do that. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, think about a name that you want, go search it and just see last time they did the episode and the infrequency of the episodes. It's like monthly, 6 of them. It starts off like 2 or 3 and then just drops off and then fades, I guess, like you said.
What's the purpose of your let's go to anything but not everything? Is that the name?
Anything, not everything. My
Okay, so
podcast.
what's the purpose? What's that supposed to do for you?
That is to get agents to us and potential secondarily um, agents to my workshop coaching program. So agents to the Cantrell Persinger real estate team. So like a recruiting thing, and then secondarily coaching.
Measurable goals. Am I getting
Mm-hmm.
more conversations started with agents for either one of these opportunities? So
Mm-hmm.
that's good. What about the new one that you're starting with Catherine? Say the name again.
Date night in show. So I think I have there's probably nothing there. I'm going to get that one going today. Like I said, we just recorded it last night. So it's datenightinshow.com. We haven't submitted it to anywhere yet. The objective there, like you said, talking about those conversion points, is what I've kind of discovered is in the very beginning, this is through my limited, you did all the heavy lifting in the podcast that we did. I just kind of showed up and pretended like I knew what I was doing. But in the very beginning, it's a conversion piece. It's there to convert your audience that you already have. I think only later, like you need a lot of shows, you need a lot of episodes and a lot of content before new people start joining in. And Catherine and I talked about this before we did ours of, do you even listen to anyone that you don't know? And it's like, well, maybe I give them a shot, but then I usually don't listen to them after one episode. You need to, it needs to be like a recommendation from a friend, or you need to find them on some other platform and then you'll go listen to them ramble for 30 minutes or 3 hours, whatever it is. So this audience is our conversion piece for the audience that we already have, and to be able to get referrals. So convert leads that we haven't converted yet, that are out there hanging out somewhere else, and then to generate referrals and recommendations from our sphere and past clients that we have already worked with.
Right. So lead nurture, lead conversion, and the way it makes you more referable is because it's shareable content. It's stuff that they can put out there, and it's not exactly a referral like, hey, go talk to Darin. It's like, listen to the show, and then you like these people, and then you're coming into
Right. So
the
we're
fold.
not, the very first one, definitely not very teach heavy, train heavy stuff at all. It's, you're either going to like us, like you, basically it's you getting, it's date night in, you get to go on a double date with Catherine and me.
Yeah, I like that. And so another thing, and I don't think you and I have talked about this, and of course it's going to go a little long because we're in nerd talk here, but that's actually one of the things that we've developed over time. And you already got this. Maybe you didn't put words to it, but people think that when they're starting a show that they need need these like demographics and psychographics and all this stuff. And what we figured out is that none of that matters. None of it matters at all. What matters is the values, like a values match. I'm going to work with people who value the same thing I value. And so when you guys are putting your personality out there and what's important to you and the whole date night thing and the kids are in bed, those are values that other people hold dear. And that's where the connection point happens.
Yeah, we call that compatibility finder. We're trying to find clients, whether they're real estate clients or agents to join us. Who are we compatible with? So, and I think I don't know about other industries, but real estate specifically, there's a big missing component, like this giant middle of missing content around and how to convert. I see real estate agents will make content for leads and for audience, and then they create content that's too far down the pipeline that doesn't help them. It's like, here's the 5 tips that you need to know about title and escrow. Well, you're not going to get that person to come work with you if they're already at the title and escrow point of the contract. If there's an issue, they're figuring it out and going back to the agent that they're already working with. But
Right.
this giant middle part of how do you move someone from lead to actual client, I think agents do a horrible job with that kind of content.
It ain't just agents, it's everybody. And that's where
It
the
is everyone.
podcast
Okay.
fits in.
Yeah. I just know my world. So, but it's interesting to hear you say that then.
Well, that's what this is designed for, and you said it earlier. This is really designed for nurture and conversion. It wasn't. I mean, it isn't until you have 100 episodes in the can where it might be a lead generator for you.
Yep.
But in the meantime, it's like putting this in to people wherever they are and letting them tune in and bond with you and hang out with you and just raise their hand and say, I like what these people like. I'm going to keep hanging out with them. This is where the real power is. It's the people that
Yeah.
already know you, keeping them engaged until they're ready to take that action.
So you haven't asked me this yet, or maybe you did, and kind of passed on it, but I touched on it earlier. I think at this stage, depending on where you're at in the world or the country, you're starting to get settled in and comfortable with what's going on in the world right now. You might have, you probably at least are past the acceptance stage and moving into the next level of this. And this is, if I could just give tips and like moving past the mindset part, like you need to start figuring out how you're going to take action. There's an opportunity where you can start working on things and not being distracted and not being interrupted. And this is part. If you were honest with yourself and you look at what type of content am I creating? Do I do like hard teaching education stuff is great for lead generation, but that doesn't convert anybody. Like you said, it's the values, it's the emotion, it's the compatibility. Yeah, I like this person. That's the stuff that matters, right? So I think, hey, if you get your mindset right, start figuring out, how do I come out of this, and what's my platforms that I'm going to use to start converting the audience that I have. Start figuring that stuff out. This is the opportunity that you have right now.
Yeah, man. All right, I knew you'd do this to me. You'd make me drag one of these on longer because we start nerd talk here. But Darin,
Yes.
anything else you want to say? I want to wrap this thing up. I want to be courteous of people's time and your time and my time. So, anything else you want to say as we're wrapping up?
I just kind of piggybacking off that last thought I had. Once you've spent enough time grieving or whatever you're doing, whatever word you want to use right now and what's going on, you got to know, like, that's enough and it's time to get back to work. And back to work might not be your normal routine. It might look very different, at least for now. And you need to figure out what that new normal is. And for us, it's content strategy, mapping, laying out our themes, figuring out all the components to that, and then starting to create it. Like, let's bank it, because we will get back to a normal where we don't always have to acknowledge what's going on. And so let's start creating content that's for that far out.
I love that. And it actually ties into something from earlier this week. James Pollard, financial advisor in marketing, talked about digging your well before you need the water. And that's what I hear you saying is like, hey, take this opportunity right now, capitalize on the time you have, and start shoring up so that you're actually ahead when the stuff hits the fan next time. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I mean, stuff always happens, but this puts you in a better position not to panic. So I love it, Darin. Thank you so much. What is it? DarinPersinger.com. Where can people find you?
Yeah, DarinPersinger.com. And then you can find me elsewhere from that.
Excellent. Brother, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. I always just always love hanging out with you. I love your positivity. I love the way that you think. And I'm grateful that you spent some time with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Say hi to the family for me.
Likewise. That is a wrap for the Daily Bread Project today. We went a little long, but couldn't help it. Catching up with my man, Darin Persinger. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will be back next time.